we got a problem. We got another problem. The problem is in Cleveland with the Browns. The Cleveland Browns
ongoing problem.
General Manager Andrew Berry gave his end-of-season press conference yesterday and revealed that, well, old Deshaun Watson had a little bit of an issue at the end of the year when they were checking up on how his Achilles was healing, and it sounded like this.
I did want to give an update on Deshaun. Yesterday, as we went through our normal player, medical process, we did learn that he did have a setback in his, Achilles recovery. We don't have all the details and everything yet, but it obviously extend the recovery process for him. It is new information, just learned in the past couple hours, so I don't have everything yet.
Now, there is some
Can
thought.
I ask y'all a question? For the amount of money that he's getting paid, and you can't seem to find a way out of the situation. I mean, would you make sure that the doctor doing the surgery for the situation, let's extend this a little while longer so that we could kind of get from under this medically?
So here's the problem, though, is it doesn't really do anything for you for this scenario. This is actually and could be one of the worst case scenarios for Cleveland for a number of reasons. And so this is the concern that I have is if you're done with him and you're going to try to figure out a way of trading him, which he has a no trade clause, so he would have to agree to it, at least a no trade clause, I believe, through 2026, maybe 2027. So if that was the case, it's not saying he cannot be traded. He just has to agree to the terms of the trade. That's the first hurdle issue. If you were trying to trade him, the next part of it is if he can't pass a physical, he's not a tradable asset. So that could potentially be out the window. The time frame of all this makes it difficult too, given when he suffered the injury and when he's trying to come back from the injury. So it makes it difficult not only to figure out anything, whether it's release him and cut him, whether it's try to trade him, whether it's to see if he's healthy, to be there on the roster in 2025. All this clouds Cleveland's decision-making for this upcoming draft and this upcoming offseason. So this is quite possibly the worst-case scenario for Cleveland at this juncture of the Deshaun Watson tenure as quarterback in Cleveland.
But
and here's how the monies would work.
Okay,
so let's say, for example, even though it's insured, it's only insured for like $51 million. Okay, so let's say, for example, he could never play again. He medically is retired, and obviously remember that it was a $230 million fully guaranteed deal. He did restructure it, but this is how it would kind of look. If he were to medically retire, and they listed him that now or on like June 2nd, his dead cap hits will accelerate onto 2025 and the rest in 2026, which means you're going to still be getting the remaining $92 million, which in that instance, the Browns may say, like, we don't want to do that if he was to medically retire, because then that's going to crush our cap the next year or two. So they actually might keep pushing out the cap hits as they have within his current contract, the way they were structured before this last season, all the way to 2027, because that's going to reduce the hit. So there's like literally no way out of this, no matter which way you want to go. Medically retired, even if they cut him, obviously, again, he'd still have a huge dead cap. I believe the number right now for next season is like 172, 73 million. So you could split that up over the course of a couple of seasons if it was a post-June 1 designation. But that would be an issue for them. And then who's going to trade for him? So let's say, for example,
going to trade for him.
Well, let's say here's the condition in which someone would, right? If you're going to take on the entirety of that salary. So that team basically gets that player basically for free, and in exchange you give up a couple draft picks, right? Like in that scenario, if Cleveland was willing to pay for Deshaun Watson to go somewhere else and play somewhere else, and maybe they get a pick back in return, but they're taking on all that salary, a la the Denver Broncos and the Pittsburgh Steelers. If that scenario was to play out, something similar to that would be something that
that would
might
make
work.
sense because at least you get something out of it.
Right, but
why would
he's
you
not
give
healthy.
up a pick for him?
But he's not healthy, so it doesn't matter. Like if he can't pass a physical and he's not able to actually go and even play for that team, why would they want to do that? Just to bail you out if you're Cleveland?
I would not.
I think there's a lot of owners around the league who look at Jimmy Haslam and say, "You did this deal, you made this trade, you can lay in that bed."
Yeah, we're not bailing you out.
Like no one's bailing you out of this.
No, and they can't because you set such a different scale of how to measure and weigh in terms of payment. I mean, you can't touch it or show any type of support towards it, right? I mean, I just would have thought that if you're giving that much of a guaranteed contract, like what they do in the NBA, right? That what they call it, an amnesty type deal, amnesty.
Amnesty, yeah.
Yeah, where you're like able to kind of write off the contract if it doesn't work out with the athlete, and it's like the insurance covers it. I can't understand why you would only insure for $50 million against a fully guaranteed contract that gets you into the 200 millions. I would at least go for something in and around the 100 or something like that and take the payment on it, because if anything, if the kid ends up doing what he's doing now, we got to Tanya Harding's him and we got to go ahead and get out of this with the insurance money, man. Like we got to be out of there. Like got to get him out of there.
Yeah. They're only insured, I believe, up to $58.1 million of the 2024-2025 compensation is insured. That's it.
Okay, so that's just for the year. What would be the whole entirety of the contract?
That's
if he
all it
wasn't
states.
able to finish out, I would be curious.
So here's the thing: is insurance sounds like a great idea in this case. Could you imagine the premiums?
Oh,
could you imagine how much it costs?
I'd be dumb.
So not only are you already paying him, and you've already agreed to it, you're trying to take out an insurance policy that you're paying now on top.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, just as it's hard sometimes for players who take out insurance policies to truly justify that, like, they can't play or they should be awarded those monies because for whatever type of insurance it is, if it's permanent disability and they can never play again, or even if it's partial disability, it's not as easy as everyone makes it out to be to get that insurance money. Anyone who's dealt with insurance companies, especially ones that, like, for example, I lived in South Florida. Go ask how many people who live on the west coast of South Florida or the west coast of Florida who have dealt with those hurricanes, how hard it is to get money for the insurance policies after the storms came through. Like, it's always how it is. It's incredibly difficult to be able to get those monies back from the insurance company. And so it sounds like a good idea to insure it, but like, yeah, okay, let's go insure and find a policy for $170 million that's left on there. It's going to be ridiculous. You're going to be looking at the payments going, well, I guess like, why are we taking on the insurance policy if we're already paying them this much on top of it? Like, it probably wouldn't make any financial sense when it's all said and done. Now, anyone from the insurance industry will tell you it does because that's their business and they want to keep making money.
You know what I feel bad for? It's the fans and the coaches that have either lost jobs or have had to sit and watch this bad football team because of this deal. Because Jimmy Haslam still made money. Regardless of them being one of the worst teams in the league, he still makes money every time somebody goes to a game or buys a product or whatever. Like, Deshaun Watson's getting his money no matter what. Like, he's getting his fully guaranteed contract, whatever he gets. If he plays another snap for the Browns, it's just on the roster, whatever the recovery time is, because he's probably going to miss the entire season if he's got to have another surgery to repair whatever the issue was. And yet it's the fans who are having to watch this bag of crap. And how many coaches have already lost their job, not named Kevin Stefanski, because Deshaun Watson can't figure it out and can't get on the field? All because Jimmy Haslam paid whatever he paid to try and bring this guy in. Those are the people that are getting screwed here. Like, they let go. Ken Dorsey gone, O-line coach gone. They just got there. They've been there a year. Like, and Stefanski did this last year that surprised everybody. If Deshaun Watson's on the field and playing up to or even close to the $230 million that he was guaranteed, people aren't losing their jobs. Fans aren't looking around going, oh, this is great. This just set our organization back a decade potentially. Myles Garrett might be looking around to go elsewhere because they're spoiling a Hall of Fame career because they gave out $230 million to a weirdo who can't stay on the field.
Against themselves.
Yeah, and they didn't need to. They didn't need to.
They bid against themselves. Dang.